while they're trickling
Last
in.
couple people trickling in. All right, let's go ahead and start so we can get to the ice cream.
Woo!
Yeah. All right. So today's the last day of spring, I think, and so we're about to have the change of seasons, and it seemed like a reasonable time to just take a couple minutes, reflect a little bit on what we've just lived through, reflect a little bit on what we're about to live through, and enjoy the time in between those eating ice cream and enjoying each other's company. It's amazing what this group has done, and it's so easy for all of us to get caught up in the panic of the moment, right? All the work that has to be done, and there's more that can get done. And so it's important to take a minute and just reflect on how much we've accomplished as a group. So I was looking at the number this morning. You guys have done 183,295 PCRs on patients. Unbelievable. So you've diagnosed 10,868 people. So actually found that many positives. That's about 6%. Yesterday you did 5,000 plus. The 10 largest volume days that we've had since this all started have been the last 10 days. So you're working harder than ever. You're also doing more important work right now than you ever have. So don't forget that. It's a big number. What does this all mean? When you see those graphs and you see that curve and you see all the red, if you look at the New York Times, where's it going up, where's it going down? Why are we light blue still? We're low and we're still in Western Washington hovering. That's because what you guys did, that's because of what we did right here. And you got to remember that. We made a huge difference in what's happened. And this is why, actual literal lives saved because of the work that's happened here. So we flattened the curve and we're keeping it flat today. And tomorrow is what tomorrow is. But we're doing everything right now that we could hope to do. You've kept the healthcare system open. So UW, is hemorrhaging money, as you all know, and you've got friends in other divisions, other parts, and they're getting furloughed, and it's really terrible. And it may, we don't know what the future holds there. We're in demand, we're safe, so that's great. But the doors are still open, and people can get health care because of what this lab does. Every patient who comes into the UW system gets a COVID test, period. They get it, they get it the day before they're going to have surgery. They get it as soon as they come in the door. They get it if they're going to have an aerosolizing procedure as an outpatient. They get a test. And I've had people look at the number. We published papers on this, and I've had people say, "Oh my God, you've done I forget the number. You've done 6,000 tests on patients, and you've only found 15 positive or something." And so that's 15 people who would have been in UW hospital with undetected COVID. Interacting with patients, interacting with staffs. How catastrophic? How many people would have gotten infected except for the fact that we're in here working our butts off every day? I mean, it's really amazing. What else? Oh, the transplant service. I love this story. I got to give grand rounds earlier in the week for pathology. And I love this, that if you look at transplant services around the country, they all basically shut down, except for the Pacific Northwest. And they had about a week where things got a little bit slow, and then they're basically transplanting organs as fast as they ever have. And it's because not only do you do 180,000 tests, you do them fast, right? So you can actually get the results back to people in time that matters, and you can do those transplants. So that's been fantastic. The nursing homes, right? Think about this story. I'm sure that, oh my God, Keith found us another study to be, it's going to drive everybody crazy. And it rightly should. I'm going to tell you how this all runs full circle. So, I was working with the kind of epidemiology folks. They're like, oh, we want to go into this nursing home, see if we can do all this testing and maybe we can keep it from having an outbreak. And it's one right here in town. We all know it. And they went in, they tested a bunch of people. They found asymptomatic people, got them sort of separated out. They found asymptomatic healthcare workers, got that separated out, and basically stopped the outbreak there. And they've never had one in that particular facility. And so then that was published in MMWR and then ultimately JAMA Internal Medicine. That so we're all happy about that. But the cycle continues because we showed that the state, the wheels of state government churn, and eventually that becomes state policy that all the assisted living facilities and all the group care facilities should be tested. And that's exactly why you got 20,000 extra samples last weekend. It's because of that work that we did those months ago. So no good deed goes unpunished, but it really, once again, is there are actual literal lives saved at these facilities because of the work that's happening here. So hugely important. What else? Oh, you've done 35,227 serologies, found 1,689 people. Now, a lot of those have been done because people are just curious, right? I want to know. I get that. I walk down the street, people grab me, like, how can I find out if I had COVID? Okay, fine, we'll do it, no problem. But we're also starting to use that to help understand what COVID's done in our community and what we need to do going forward. So you might have seen we did this study with the Fred Hutch and young healthy people and found out there weren't very many infections in there, only about 1.5%. Now we're doing the whole UW Medical Center. It looks like a little bit higher. The study's done a little bit later, more people have been infected. A little bit older populations had to come into work every day, couldn't stay at home, with all the risks, you got to fill your car up and all that stuff, but a little bit higher. And then, we're about to announce a big statewide study that we're doing together with the state government and the Allen Foundation to really understand where the state stands. And, not only where does Seattle and Western Washington stand, but what do things really look like in Yakima, and Benton County, and Spokane, and all these places. And that's all going to come through this lab. So incredibly important. So, lots and lots of hard work, right, for a long time. I was doing the math. You can also do this. When was the last time you took a day off? Work your way back. There's going to be some of you are going to be able, I know this, there are people in this room who'll be able to say, I haven't had a day off for an entire season of the year, right? All of springtime, you will have worked every single day. It's amazing that, we can all actually stand in the room and not kill each other. It's really good. It's a tribute. Well done. So how's it going to end? I have no idea. We have to be honest with that. It's not going to end tomorrow. We're sort of turning, we're fighting back. I'm going to talk about that. But everything could break down tomorrow, right? I mean, we could find out that the positivity rate tomorrow is 4.5%, and then it's 6%, and God only knows. And if that happens, we're going to be ready, and we're going to serve our population just like we need to. So, just to kind of wrap up with going forward, it is this change, this time of seasons, which is why this is a great time to do this, ice cream. But it's also metaphorical for how reactive we've been about this thing that we heard about and we started preparing back in January, just in case, and then but been reactive constantly. And I want everybody to understand and sort of mark this as a time and think about this moment. Actually mark this in your minds, because I think this is when we're actually turning the table on the virus. I actually think we're going to stop being reactive and we're fighting back. Going from defense to offense. So we've been in a small way sort of involved in some of the early remdesivir work. We're about to become much bigger involved in that, really understanding how that drug works, how it's best used, and that's based on some of the quantitative PCR that a lot of you have worked on, so we can actually give numbers and really do meaningful science. But what I'm really, really excited about is that we're going to be the lab that's going to make sure that the national vaccine effort works. That's all going to come through here. We're going to be the ones to make sure that we understand which virus works, which doesn't. It's this thing called Operation Warp Speed. You've heard about it in the federal government. It's every agency in the government you've heard of working together. Huge funders, Bill and Melinda Gates. If people are throwing money at this, there's $10 billion that have been thrown at it. Not all coming here by any means. But you know that there'll be the first vaccine trial will be this Moderna trial. I know I've been talking with a lot of you about that and what it's going to mean for this lab. They'll be closely followed by an AstraZeneca trial. Each one will have about 30,000 participants. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck are all part of this. So there's going to be tremendous work. It's going to be work. In the grand scheme of the number of tests we're doing, it's not a drop in the bucket, but it's well within what you've been doing. We're going to be able to do it. So let me just close, and as if I've not been sort of philosophical enough here. You know, you get born into a time, right? I mean, you know, and it sounds a little bit cheesy, but you know, this is the time we were born in. Like, you know, I great grandparents, you know, fought in World War II, right? You hear these stories, right? And no, well, that was actually my grandparents, but you know, maybe you had a great grandparent, like the Depression, right, or whatever. Or you had an uncle who helped build Apollo and go to the moon, and these are these things they remember. This was their time, and there is no way you're going to, you know, go through the rest of your life and not look back at this as sort of your time, the challenge that we faced. It's really something, and I'd say this is our time, and we can all feel good because we've stepped up. I just want you to think about, you know, what did you do? You know, you're going to be asked, what did you do during that time? And some people are going to say, yeah, I did a good job. I stayed at home and sat on myself. But you're going to have, you know, what did you during this time? You're going to have stories, okay, of the sacrifices you made and the incredibly important work that you did. Hang on to those, you know, cherish those and appreciate them right now in the moment because you're living it now. And there's really nothing more important than we could be doing. So I thank you so much for what you're doing. I want you to enjoy some ice cream and enjoy the rest of your time. Thank you.